The average solo GP is dead. Being handcuffed to a practice that only makes money while you're drilling crushes your freedom. Being trapped at the office is no way to experience life. And doing more fillings and crowns ain't the answer to freedom. Stop it. Freedom comes when your practice makes money without you. Freedom is choosing how many days and how you dental. Ready to forge your freedom? Then keep listening to become a super GP and super CEO. This is the Titanium Practice Podcast with your host, Dr. Stephen Freeman. Let's go.
Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to what's sure to be the best episode of the Titanium Practice Podcast yet. I'm your host and personal freedom coach, Dr. Stephen Freeman. How y'all doing today? All right, first things first, if I could get you to hit the subscribe button for this podcast and potentially leave a review, I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out our rankings and getting other people to hear the podcast. And then head on over to titaniumpractice.com and sign up for our Insiders newsletter. It's all free. I just want to get you as much information I possibly can to help you grow your practices. All right, let's get rolling with the content for today. So we were hanging out on Friday afternoon, and my buddies and I'd like to head on over to the local Mexican restaurant, great place called Cantina Louie's. If you haven't heard of it yet, they are going national pretty darn soon, so it will be out there eventually. Some great food, and even better, I love hanging out with my buddies, and we do it pretty much every Friday, where we'll go have a couple of drinks at lunch. And we got to sitting around and talking about Cinco de Mayo. And it's funny because we were also talking about, in a different conversation, about how great it used to be to have things like the Guinness Book of World Records. And like, you used to be able to like get into these fights with your friends about like who was the best at doing something. And the Guinness Book would tell you those things of like what was the best of all that stuff, of like who shoved the most cigarettes in their mouth at one time, and stupid stuff like that. But like, also the more important things like who, hit the most home runs of all time, and, other sports stuff associated with that. But it was just a great book. And then that kind of translated to us then talking about, having your cell phone now, of being able to have all the information in the entire world at your fingertips. It's an incredible power that I think a lot of the time we don't necessarily step back and actually think about how truly awesome it is, especially if you were born in my generation where we were raised without the internet. It's a hard thought to believe. I tried to explain that to my kids the other day about like what life was like without the internet, and they literally couldn't conceive of the idea of the world without the internet. And it's just funny because that's what they've got now. But back to our conversation that we're having is, we were talking about Cinco de Mayo and like, what was it about? Because Americans, celebrate it, every single year, but what was it actually about? And most people don't even realize the fact that it was a battle, a victory over the French. So it became this thing of, hey, we won this battle. There were only like 4,000 Mexican troops and 8,000 French troops, and they managed to beat them in this battle. And I knew that prior to reading about it. Yep, just went to Wikipedia, so it's got to be true, right? But I continued to read. What I didn't realize is they won this big battle then, but a little less than a year later, they lost a battle that was essentially like the sequel to this war, and they lost the battle, which kind of reminded me of the American Revolution, of how, the United States went and defeated, the English, and, they had a huge force that they overcame. And then in 1812, the English came back and kicked the crap out of the United States and actually burned the White House. I'm not sure if it was to the ground or not, but there's literally still scorch marks in the White House from the fire that the British set. And I always just kind of thought that was funny. It was like, hey, we're back. We can still kick your ass, but we're going to leave for good now. And that was the end then of the English having any kind of rule over the United States for, it was made it official at that point in time. But the thing with Cinco de Mayo is like, Like they celebrated this victory, which was great and all, but they ended up losing essentially the war, or got their asses kicked just like the United States did in 1812. But we still celebrate it to this day, and it's more of an American holiday than it is a Mexican holiday. I mean, they do show, some degree of importance down in Mexico about the holiday, but at the same time, it's been this more, I mean, let's be honest, it's like Margarita Day, right? That's the day you eat Mexican food. That's the day you drink margaritas, and it's got me to thinking about one of the things that I really like to do in the office, and it's to find reasons to celebrate, okay? Even if it doesn't really make sense. Your staff, and I've said this in other podcasts about the fact that, like, the job of a dental assistant is ridiculously hard. It's ridiculously hard. I mentioned the fact, like, you need to know how to do so many different procedures that it makes it very difficult. And a lot of the time, we're asking people who have gone through very, very minimal training, and then they get sent to an office that maybe will do some training, and most of that training involves very, very, this is procedural. Like, this is how we do it in our office. This is how the doctor likes his tray set up, which I've never understood for all of you. But I mean, most dentists are so anal retentive about everything that I'm sure that a lot of you want, like, each instrument set up a particular way. And I'm like, I could care less. They open the packet for me, and a lot of the time it just sits there. Because first off, I use very, very few instruments, but I cannot possibly want them to waste their time either A, learning how I want it particularly set up, or B, to know the difference between what doctor wants what. I don't get it. Sorry, that was just kind of a tangent there. But most of the stuff that this dental assistant gets trained on when they come to your office is procedural. This is how you ask for time off. This is who you go to call out when you're sick. This is how you get your employment benefits and things like that. Like, that's what they get trained on when they come to the office. We don't typically do a skills assessment and find out what it is that they actually know about doing dentistry, or the extent of what they know about dentistry, okay? And talking about maybe the why behind the way you do what you do. And I think a lot of it is because maybe we're lazy, okay? But the more time you invest into them, the better they're going to be. So you need to make sure that they understand the why of you doing a particular procedure, a particular way that you do it. Because a lot of the time, especially if you get a very new assistant who's maybe never been in an office before, or only been in one office before, and they've seen it done one way, you know for a fact there's a million different ways to do different procedures. My buddy just sent me an email, or I'm sorry, a text the other day talking about this greater curvature band to do class 2 composites, and he loves it. He thinks it's great. It's totally changed the way he does class 2 composites. And I mean, I can't tell you because I haven't done a class 2 composite in years, a decade plus at this point in time. I don't know, but he was all super excited about it. But again, there's another thing of, there's sectional matrices, this greater curvature, the traditional Toffelmeyer, all that stuff. There's just a million different ways to do these different procedures, but we don't take a lot of time to actually train our assistants to understand the why, the way we want it done, and then to make sure that we talk through the process. Like, do they understand what total etch versus self-etch is? I mean, think about that. I mean, there's a huge difference. And by the way, I self-etch. I know a lot of, when I did class 2 composites, I self-etched. So many of my associates, just this sensitivity thing. How is my filling sensitive? And they use total etch. And I say, why? Why are you using total etch? I never had fillings fall out. I never had fillings fall out. I never ever had fillings fall. It was never a problem with doing that. Doing them is what sucked. I hated doing them. But I never had you never have a sensitivity problem with self-etch versus total etch. So there's another tangent. I'm going off on a couple different tangents today. But anyways, Like, their job is very difficult. So we need to find moments in time to celebrate them. And I don't know about you, but have you listened to how people are treating your front desk recently? Have you listened to this? People have lost their ever-loving minds. I cannot believe the huge change that has happened in people's personalities since COVID happened. People were kind of rude before, or you could find kind of rude people before. Now it's so common. I don't understand how they work at the front desk. I don't get it at all, because we'll have people throw their IDs at, like, their driver's license. They're coming in, they're a new patient. You know, if they've got insurance, we want to be able to verify their stuff. And if we need to send you to collections, we need to have your driver's license so that we can identify you. And they'll throw the ID at them. I mean, the way they act now is unbelievable. But I got a great front office. I got a fantastic, they're always smiling. They're dancing, they're singing together. They're having a hoot and hollering good time up front. But they get shit on a lot by people. They really, really do. So I say this all to say we need to find reasons to celebrate. Like, this would have been a great one. Like, and I screwed up. I probably, and maybe I should, you know what, as I say this out loud, I still got a chance. Maybe tomorrow I'll just, order from one of the local Mexican places and do a catered lunch and say, hey, seis de ocho day, or seis de mayo day, rather than, I was thinking of a Simpsons quote where they talk about Cinco de Ocho, sorry. But, do a Cinco de Mayo party for the office tomorrow. And everybody loves free food. And it'll cost $250 or something like that for the entire staff. Buy them lunch and off you go. And you've made them happier. It's so simple and easy to do. And it brings people together. There's nothing like eating, that term breaking bread, with other people is it's just like in our primordial ooze of like eating together is where friendship comes from. And they will want to go to war, so to speak, with people that they like. And if they've broken bread with them, they're much more likely to do this. And I get it. You have a break room. They all go kind of have their own kind of lunch now. And a lot of them have their own little thing that they do or whatever. And you know what it is. You know that, Allison's going to bring her salad, and, Christina's not going to eat anything because she's on the latest diet. That, you just know that they're going to do those things. But it's just, if you can get them all and have a little bit of a party together and celebrate, it makes all the difference in the world. It goes back to, again, me talking about gamifying things. Break up the routine. Make it different. And when you celebrate things like that, and it's I mean, at the end of the day, the actual Cinco de Mayo doesn't really mean anything to the people in my office, or the vast majority of them. But it's a reason to do something. And you just need to do this throughout the year, is create reasons. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a special holiday. Like, we do Friendsgiving, like around Thanksgiving. I buy, they bring their favorite like family dish to the office, and then I buy the proteins, like the turkey. We do turkey, ham, and normally like ribs and stuff like that. So I'll buy the expensive part and carve it up, and we take a little bit of extra time for Friendsgiving to do that one. But you need to find times throughout the year. What about as we get closer, like 4th of July is coming up? What if you had someone come and like grill burgers, and you had a cookout for your staff? Just finding reasons to celebrate what they do really, really helps them out. The number one thing that is going to cause someone to leave your practice, referring to the staff, is lack of recognition. And the problem is that most of the time, these people need correcting a lot of the time. They do stuff wrong all the time. And you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. And so it almost needs to be that whole good cop, bad cop thing, where you're telling them, along the way, we're praising them while you're also kind of like yelling at them. And it didn't probably make too much sense. But my point is there need to be times that you're celebrating them so that it's just not always you cracking the whip on them. You can't just always ask them to do more, and do better and better and better, because that just at some point in time it breaks them. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to get yelled at. And part of me is also like, well, we have all these procedures written down. You know what we ask you to do. You always get yelled at about it. So why don't you just do the damn thing and then we don't have to yell at you about it? But I mean, it's the same relationship you have with your kids, most likely. Kids are the exact same way. You keep doing the same thing wrong over and over. I don't want to have to yell at you, but here we are in the situation again. So apparently I need to yell at you again to not do the thing wrong. So think about that. Think about where you can interject random celebrations. They don't need to have to be huge parties every single time. But again, it goes back to the other thing of just being able to just say thank you. And a lot of the time this stuff can be set aside from, do you all save after you cut off a crown? Do you save it so you can send it to a refinery place? There's a good little nugget for you. Get your metal refined, and they'll pay you a decent amount of money, and that can pay for a lot of your culture fund of these smaller parties that you have throughout the year. So we get a lot. I mean, we cut off tons and tons and tons of crowns. And it's unfortunate because now, a lot of them are going to zirconia, and they're not going to obviously refine zirconia, but we still have an older population. So a lot of them are walking in with these ugly PFMs that we cut off, and away we go. But for now, at least, we can refine a decent amount of money and do that. I know that they've been saving a lot of money. They're renting, every year we rent a beach house. I don't go to this, but the staff goes to it. They rent a beach house around here, and we take them out and rent it for the weekend, and they go out there, and it's a great team building event. But it's to celebrate them. But you can find that money by doing that. You can also have a contest if you wanted to do it that way. Again, going back to gaming things, is you can create some type of reward system where you get them to do a certain amount of something, and then you go and rent a house. And obviously, if you live in the mountains, go up into the mountains or something like that. Or go take them on heck, I love snowmobiling, right? Nearly killed my daughter on one recently. Go take them on a trip and do something like that. But you need to find reasons to celebrate. Make sure you celebrate the milestones in your practice. Do they know what your goals are? Do you know what your goals are? Do you know what your goals are, what you're trying to obtain? Do you want to are you happy having $1 million office that maybe has a 50% overhead? I mean, that's very, very doable. You can absolutely do that. And I'm sure a lot of you listening, you wouldn't be listening unless you already maybe were close to that goal. But do they know that? Do they know that's what you're trying to achieve? If you're not there yet, and you say, well, we're trying to get to a certain amount of profitability. I'm trying to be profitable to a certain amount. And you can reward them and celebrate when you're in a month where you've hit that profitability. Or maybe you do it quarterly. But they share your goals with your team. And that's a huge reason to celebrate. Because the biggest thing you can do, and I've said it before, is create as many win-wins as you possibly can. So if you set a goal and you hit it, well, then let's celebrate it and reward them with that so they can win it as well. It can't just all be about putting money into your pocket. And obviously you should get the vast, 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 vast majority of that money. That is your reward for your sacrifice and your work, but they are also working hard too. They did not sacrifice the time of going to dental school like you did. They did not sacrifice having to open this practice up. I've told you before, I didn't take a paycheck my first year I was open. And gosh, I would do it all differently now. And I know that it wouldn't happen the same way again, but I've learned from that. So great. That was my paycheck then. That was the experience tax, so to speak, or the expense at getting the experience. So share with them the goals so that you've got a reason then to celebrate and try to make as big of a deal as you can out of it. It doesn't need to be huge every single time, but these little things build up over time and they create a culture of celebration, of having fun. I just got done telling you, the ladies at my front desk, they will dance and they will sing. They routinely. And it's to songs that I never ever thought that they would get excited about. One of them's Carly Rae Jepsen, an Owl City singer, something about always having a good time, and every time it comes on, they turn up the volume a little bit higher and they dance. And you may say you don't want that in your practice, and that's fine, but even that, they find just a couple of moments to celebrate that breaks up the monotony a little bit. And I think I've got like 600 songs on my playlist, and they listen it on repeat all the time, and so it comes on about every third day or so. They'll hear it. So they'll hear it about once a week. And now it's kind of become a thing in the office where they've got other people stopping what they're doing and having 3 minutes where they can be a little goofy and have a good time. But it's a reason for them to celebrate. And that may sound stupid to you, but it breaks up the monotony. It's a reason for them to have fun, and it's something for them to look forward to. So you need to create those things of something to look forward to, and it's not just them getting yelled at all the time about all the things they do wrong, even though they bring it upon themselves. And I know they do. I know they do because I see it in my own practice myself. Okay? So I'll close on saying, celebrate things. Please do it. You'll have more fun. Your employees will have more fun. And I promise you, if they're having more fun, you will have exponentially more fun, a more profitable practice, and it's a win-win because everybody gets more out of it, okay? So I want to thank you again for listening. Again, if you can leave us a review, that would be awesome. Hit us up at titaniumpractice.com so you can be part of the Insider Circle, and I will get you out the next podcast as soon as I can, but I appreciate y'all listening. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to the Titanium Practice Podcast with your host, Dr. Stephen Freeman. Please hit the like and subscribe button and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Titanium Practice. Questions or comments? Send an email to info@titaniumpractice.com. Join us next time to help turn your average practice into a titanium practice.